Welcome to church, everybody. Man, happy Sunday. All of our locations, I want to say a big hello to our Hockeston church family, our Middletown church family, and all of you here in the room in Newark, of course, and all of you who are joining us online. We are one church gathered across several locations, and God is doing some amazing, amazing things. And I'm glad you're in the room. Turn to the person next to you or nearby and just tell them, I'm glad you're here. Tell them, I'm glad you're here. And all right, turn to your second choice and say, hey. Oh, no, that's terrible. Don't do that. Well, this weekend is a very special one for a couple of reasons. First of all, it is baptism weekend, and yeah, man, fired up about that. Across all of our locations, people will be going public with their faith in Jesus. It is a powerful declaration. And if you have not taken that step yet, today is your day, whether you signed up in advance or you just make the decision over the next few minutes that you want to take this step. We have everything ready for you, and it's going to be a powerful opportunity to celebrate. And then I want to encourage all of you, because now so many of you have already taken this step. You've gone public with your faith in the past. Don't miss this moment, all right? This is a chance for you to be warmed up spiritually, reminded of who you are and whose you are, and there's nothing more unifying than us celebrating baptism together. So that's very important. And second, as you heard, this weekend is an important moment in our Beyond initiative, and I just want to add to what we heard a moment ago, just about what God is doing and how you have leaned in and wrestled with God as a church over the past few weeks. It has been remarkable. In fact, I want to share with you just a couple of other kind of numbers that show what God is doing. We had a goal of 520 families, households participating and making a Beyond commitment. 697 of you made a commitment toward Beyond, and I thank God for that. I know some of you, maybe you didn't fill in a commitment card, but you just started giving toward it, and that's okay too. I'm just very, very grateful for all that. And then I thought this was really interesting. 238 of you have given for the first time in 2026 here. God is working in a big way, and of course, way beyond the numbers. There's just this faithfulness to God. And if you're here today and you're new to the church thing, maybe you came to celebrate with someone who's being baptized, or you just came to check it out, or you're searching, looking for answers. I want you to know that beyond the amount we give or people in our church committing to giving, the heart behind this is we have a passion to see our region impacted for Jesus. And we believe we just have a part to play, and we want to play it. And I'm so proud of all of you. And next Sunday, just so you know, will be our kind of first official Beyond offering. So if you made a one-time commitment, you can give a one-time gift toward that, or whether you made a commitment or not, or if you want to just start your giving if you haven't yet. That's going to happen next Sunday. We are believing God to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think over the next 2 years. And I had an opportunity, by the way, to be at our new building this week for some construction meetings, and we're already moving along, and God is at work. So it's an exciting time, and we are trusting God. That's what this is all about. And trusting God is what this series is all about, the gap. It's what baptism is all about, trusting God, even when, or especially when, we don't fully understand what he's doing or why. And there are moments like that. The gap is the space between what we expect and what we experience. How many of us have found ourselves in the gap somewhere in life? In a relationship, in your mental health, you get news that you weren't expecting, and all of a sudden there's this gap that forms. Have you ever gone through something bad, but then it turned out to be good in the end? Like good things happened as a result of something bad? Has anybody been there? When I was in the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, my girlfriend broke up with me. I know. Thank you. Like, how's that even possible? Yeah, just she, it was one of those, it's not you, it's me, which means it's so you. And she broke up with me, and that felt bad. But a few weeks later, I met someone named Susie. And she is, if you're like, why are people cheering? That's weird. She's my wife now. And we have been married almost 29 years. Just a few weeks, we'll celebrate 29 years. Big deal. And I did not understand when the first thing happened. It felt really bad. Second thing happened. Eventually I realized, man, this is really good. But in between was the problem, the gap. When you haven't seen the good yet, all you have to deal with is the bad. And that is the gap. So during this series, we are looking at a short little book in the Bible called Habakkuk. Last week, we learned how to pronounce it. Well done. That was a lot of fun. But Habakkuk is a unique book of the Bible because most books of the Bible are actually written about or to people, okay? That is usually the theme. They're either written to give people an account of things that happened, or they're written about what God did. But this particular little book is actually just the entire thing, 3 chapters, a conversation between Habakkuk and God. And it's kind of an intense conversation, actually. It's not like an easy conversation. And it is often called a lament. It is a word to describe some of the writings in the Bible. And a lament has 3 parts to it, okay? It's important to understand about this little book of the Bible. It has a complaint. So, God, what I am experiencing is not what I expected. I don't like it. I'm not enjoying this. This is not good, okay? It's a complaint. And then there's a question, which is, God, do you even notice? Are you paying any attention to what's happening? Are you really in control? And then last, there is a demand, which is, God, fix it. So this is a kind of prayer, but it's a pretty insistent kind of prayer. It's like, God, you have to fix this. It's not like, it'd be nice if I found a parking spot. Okay, this is like, God, I'm desperate. You have to fix it. That's a lament. Now, the reason I break that down for you is because you do that. So do I. We all do. You may not have known the word to attach, but now you do. When you do that with God, you are lamenting. So you can tell him, hey, God, by the way, this is a lament. I got a complaint, I got a question, and I got a demand. I need you. That's what this book of the Bible is. And I hope that's encouraging to you because it means that it's very normal and very human to find ourselves in the gap. To find ourselves in this place where we don't understand what's going on, we cannot make sense of it, and we are looking for God to intervene. And that's Habakkuk. He looks around at his world and all the stuff that's happening, injustice, moral decay, pain, all of these things, and he cries out to God, wondering, God, why aren't you fixing this? And God gives him an answer. Here's what we read. The Lord replied, look around at the nations, look and be amazed. For I am doing something in your own day, something you wouldn't believe even if someone told you about it. Now, at first, this sounds great to Habakkuk. He's like, oh, you're doing something amazing. That's good news. That's what I've been asking for. I need you to do something. God says, I'm working in ways that you can't even see, which is fantastic. It's exciting, but watch this next part. I am raising up the Babylonians, a cruel and violent people. Okay. This is not what Habakkuk is expecting. I've had this, can I be honest with you guys? Of course I can. Of course I can. I always am, for better or for worse. But I have been so tempted the last few minutes to say Habakkuk just once or twice, because I just want to keep messing with the way you pronounce this little book. I don't know why that is, but this is not what Habakkuk is expecting. He is not looking for a solution to his problem that makes his problem worse. Okay, it's not what he's been asking God for. Have you heard that saying, too good to be true? You ever heard that saying? So if your cousin's like, I got this girl that you should date. And she's never dated anyone. And she probably never will unless it's you. But she's perfect for you. Too good to be true. How many know what I'm talking about? It's just too good to be true. Or this diet, I found this diet, you can eat whatever you want, whenever you want, you still lose weight. Too good to be true. Okay, so if you've heard that saying, too good to be true, what God says here is actually the opposite. He says, Habakkuk, I'm about to do something amazing. And Habakkuk's like, that's fantastic. I was wondering why you took so long. And then God says, what I'm gonna do is gonna feel too bad to be true. It's gonna feel so bad that you wonder, like if someone told you I was gonna do this, you would say, no, not God. Kind of messes with you, doesn't it? You say, no, my God is a good God. He would never allow something like that to happen. And this would be too bad to be true. It would feel that way. The Babylonians were terrible. They were a violent, ruthless nation. They brought chaos everywhere they went. In fact, God tells Habakkuk, like, it's not a surprise. Here's what's going to happen. They will march across the world and conquer other lands. They are notorious for their cruelty and do whatever they like. They are deeply guilty, for their own strength is their God. And God says, I'm the one raising them up. I wonder if Habakkuk in this moment is thinking, actually, I changed my mind. I would like to withdraw my lament. Things are not that bad. I will take this over that. How many of us desire for something to change in our lives until the way God goes about changing it is not what we expected? How many of us who are followers of Jesus would say, I want to be more like Jesus. I want my attitude to change. I want my priorities to change. I want my life to go in the right direction. And so God says, all right, let's work on that. And he puts us in environments that do not feel like good environments, around people who do not seem to be good people, in situations that do not appear to be good situations. And we're going, God, God, please slow down and read my text again. We ask God to help us with our addiction, and he says, okay, let's speed up the process by which you get to rock bottom. Let me pull everything away that you think you have control over. And we're going, no, that's not what I meant. And God says, let me work. We ask God to work in a relationship, and instead of fixing the other person, which is what we wanted, he brings our issues to the surface. And we're going, no, God, what you were supposed to do was repair this dysfunctional person. And now you're trying to repair me, and that is not what I expected. And it hurts. It's like you're doing surgery on me, and they needed the operation. It's easy to trust God when things are good. It's easy to trust God when miracles are happening and good things are taking place. And it can be easy to be, I'm a person of faith because there's so much evidence right now. But when God starts to work in ways that don't make sense to us, that's the gap. And again, I hope this is encouraging to you, because Habakkuk believes in God. He's very devoted to God, but he doesn't just accept this. He laments. Oh Lord, our rock, you have sent these Babylonians to correct us, to punish us for our many sins, but you are pure and cannot stand the sight of evil. Will you wink at their treachery? Like, you just gonna let this happen, God? Should you be silent while the wicked swallow up people more righteous than they? Will you let them get away with this forever? That is a lament. In other words, God, I want to believe that you are good, but how do I do that when the things that you are doing or allowing around me right now don't seem like they're good at all? And you know, the interesting thing is that when we're in the gap, you know, we start to believe we're the only ones who've ever been in the gap quite like this. Come on, it happens to me. I'm like, I am the only person out of the 7.8 billion on the planet who have ever suffered like this. And we start to feel alone. We start to feel like our hopes have been swept out from under us. And we're going, God, I want to believe you're good, but it doesn't seem like things are good. It's not just Habakkuk's question, it's our question. Times in our lives when what God is doing or not doing, what he's allowing or not allowing, don't line up with what we expect. That's the gap. When you don't understand what God is doing or not doing, can you still trust him? That is the question of faith. Or do you try to take back control of your life? Remember what God says about the Babylonians? He says, their God is their own strength. In other words, they trust in what they can build and accomplish on their own. They're very self-oriented and self-reliant. And I guess from the outside looking in, they look like they have good reason to be. They're marching across the world. Everything they touch, they conquer. And they have put their own confidence in themselves. They've put their confidence in what they can achieve. Does that sound at all like you? It sounds like me sometimes. Like there are times where I'm just like, okay, I got this. I can get through this. I can do this. And some of that is healthy confidence. Some of it is false bravado. And sometimes when I'm going through something difficult, anybody else have the mantra, try harder? That's my mantra. My whole life has been like, well, you're just gonna have to try harder. Yeah, try harder, Johnston. You're just gonna have to like get up earlier, stay up later. Just like, if you gotta suffer, like just suffer, man. Just try harder. And sometimes in the process, I turn my own efforts into a God. And that's what happens with the Babylonians. So let me ask you, when you're in the gap, do you move more and more toward surrender, or do you move more and more toward control? And I promise I'm gonna connect this to baptism in just a minute, so stay with me. But baptism is just getting wet if you haven't surrendered your life. So the question is, are you really ready to let go of control of your life? Do you double down on your own efforts when you're in the gap, or do you lean into God's wisdom? Is God your God, or is your own strength and your own understanding your God? Some of us gotta understand. It's like, I will trust God when I understand everything about him. You will only understand everything about God when you have the wrong God, a small God who can be completely understood by you, which would make him unworthy to be God. But some of us, we get hung up there. We're like, I will believe when I understand everything. Not just some things, everything. What Habakkuk is learning, or Habakkuk, is that we can trust that what God does is good even when we don't understand. That actually is faith. And by the way, if you're like, you're telling me to check my brains at the door. No, I'm not. I am one of the most analytical. I promise you, I'm like, prove it. That is how I am. My wife is always like, I found out that this is happening. I'm like, prove it. I need the evidence. So I believe in using our intellect and our brains, but you can't approach a holy God just through your own understanding. In fact, the New Testament says that if you struggle with anxiety or worry, God wants to give you peace beyond your understanding, which means you can have understanding or you can have peace. Sometimes the only way to have peace is to say, I don't understand, but I still trust. I trust God. And from Habakkuk's perspective, what God is allowing, it looks like a disaster. He's raising up the Babylonians. Nobody wants that. But from God's perspective, this is a bigger plan. And this is just part of his larger purpose, not just for Habakkuk's life, but for his people and for the world. And what God allows in your life is part of a bigger purpose. Sometimes it may feel like a disaster, but it's part of a bigger plan. And I'm not talking about being complacent and be like, well, stuff is terrible. I guess it's just God's will. That's not how Habakkuk responds. He prays. He seeks God. But there comes a point where we've got to decide, am I going to understand or am I going to trust? Will I trust God even when I don't understand? And when we decide to trust God, even with what we don't understand, we will soon find out that good comes after the gap. God has something good after the gap. What we thought was the end turns out to be just the beginning. What we thought was a setback turns out to be a setup for something good God had in store. So it's baptism weekend. Have you ever wondered, again, whatever your experience kind of with God or church has been, you probably are somewhat familiar with baptism, this public act, this sacrament of the church. Have you ever wondered why Jesus tells us to be plunged into a pool of water in his name as evidence that we're his followers? I mean, I want you just to kind of stop and think about it. It's a little hard to understand, isn't it? I mean, just kind of zoom out a little bit and be like, okay, you want me to take a brief bath? What? You want somebody to, like, what? Make it make sense. We know that baptism is a symbol of burying our old life, right? We know that it is a symbol of the cleansing of our sins. The water doesn't physically wash our sins away, But there is something about our obedience to what God asks us to do that seals the deal. And God's Spirit is able to work in our lives in a more powerful way. But why do we actually have to physically do it? Like, why can't we just be like, I got baptized in my brain? Like, I have this mental kind of faith, I believe. Susie and I have, many of you know, and many of you have had an encounter with our son. He has autism, and he's an amazing human being. And he doesn't have a lot of language, and we're not always sure how he's processing things. But a few years ago, he was standing right up here next to Susie during baptism, and all of a sudden, he leaned over unprompted and whispered in my wife's ear, "Con, get baptized." His name is Connor. He calls himself Con. We're not sure why. Shorter. We're like, well, you're not a con artist, just to be clear. You are. He said, "Con, get baptized." My wife was like, okay, well. And he had this real, like he was like, "Con, get in the water." So I was in the pool, and the next thing I knew, I see my son walking up to the baptismal pool, and Con got baptized. It was such an amazing day. Baptism is a little hard to understand intellectually. There's a gap between what we understand about it and what God does through it. But the Holy Spirit draws us to God in ways that we don't always fully understand. The key is that we can trust that what God asks is good, even when we don't understand it. So that day, Connor understood enough to trust. What are you waiting for? Well, I just need a few more pieces to fall into place. Like, I just need to. Some of you are in the gap right now. Some things in your life don't make sense, not going the way you hoped. You have a complaint. This isn't good. You have a question. God, what are you doing? You have a demand. God, fix it. And that's okay. You are being pulled into this moment where you're being asked by God to trust him in the meantime. And the temptation is always, well, when this makes a little more sense, like if I just get some more of this kind of lined up in my mind, then I'm going to trust God. But that's not faith. When your life feels like it's falling apart, faith is believing that God is actually working to put something better together. And it's not just this like, faith is not saying it is good. Faith is saying it will be good. Okay, naivete is saying it is good. Delusion is saying it is good. God does not ask us to look at things that are bad and say they are good. He asks us to look at things that are bad and say, there's a good God in charge of that, so eventually it will be good. That's faith. In the gap, you got to trust. But how do we know? How do we know that God will bring good after the gap? That is where we look to the cross that Jesus died on. Because the cross was terrible for Jesus. The cross was not good. It was brutal. It was undeserved. It looked like a disaster. The cross was so bad that Jesus' closest followers, his disciples, ran away from it. Literally, he had told them, you got to carry your cross if you want to follow me. And when they saw him walking that out, they ran away. One of his closest friends denied that he even knew him because the cross was so bad. It looked so bad. It looked like the end. But it was just the beginning. And God let his own son go through hell to save us. to show us that no matter what we go through, there is good on the other side of the gap. And Jesus trusted that on the other side of the gap, what no one could understand in human terms would actually lead to something good. So much so that we even renamed the day he died on. We call it Good Friday. Just celebrated it a couple of weeks ago as part of Easter. Good Friday. How can you look at a day when somebody brutally dies on a cross for crimes and they didn't commit and sins they didn't commit? How can you look at that and call it good? Because you know what you're looking at is Jesus standing in the gap for us to save us from a life without God, to save us from a life where our own strength is our God, to bring us into right relationship with God. And not only that, but to give us once and for all the assurance that no matter what we walk through in this life, our souls are safely in his hand and he will take us through the gap. God is not limited to what makes sense to us. If he was, he wouldn't be God, he'd just be us. And that's what I love about baptism, because it is an ending that becomes a beginning. You get in this water saying, I am done with this old life. I am a follower of Jesus now. And you come out new, never the same. You come out with your life transformed by Jesus. Baptism isn't what you do once you finally understand everything. Baptism is what you do once you finally decide to trust God with everything, especially what you don't understand. It's saying, I surrender and I believe. It's a statement that you can trust that what God does is good, even when you don't understand it. God's been with you in those moments. Some of you today, all of our locations, you have things in your life that have broken your resolve. You've suffered, you've grieved, gone through loss, you failed at things, and it hangs over you. And it's because you are living in your human perspective. If you could see what your God sees, there is nothing he can't redeem. There is no one he can't save. There's no story he can't rewrite. And baptism is simply publicly saying, I believe that, and I'm with Jesus now. And for some of you today, that's your step. You believe in Jesus, you've turned away from a life of sin, but you haven't yet gone public with your faith in baptism. And when I say you've turned away from sin, I don't mean that you're perfect. I mean that you have surrendered, you have truly repented. You've said, I am not going to continue living the way I used to live, but by the power of God, though I may struggle at times, I'm going to struggle forward in God's direction. And his power is going to transform me. Today is your day. Don't wait for everything to make sense. Trust God. And for some of you, if you haven't yet even made that first step of trusting your life to Jesus, I want to lead you in a very simple prayer today to start there. If God's drawing you to him, today's the day to surrender everything, and then you can take the step of being baptized today. We have a 2-for-1 special. It's like it all happened in one day. But if you haven't trusted Jesus with your life yet, I'm urging you today, don't make your own strength your God any longer. Turn to him. I want everyone to join me, all of our locations. And if that's you today, if you would say, I want to put my faith in Jesus, I want to lead you in a very simple prayer. You can use my words, use your own if you have them, whatever helps you, but pray with faith, something like this. Jesus, I surrender to you. I hand over control of my whole life right now. I need you. I believe that your death on a cross forgives my sins. I believe you rose again and you're real. I don't understand everything, but I'm going to trust you today with the rest of my life. And if that's you, while everyone around you stays focused on God, all of our locations, if you would say, I want to be included in that prayer, would you lift your hands, hold it up high and boldly? Awesome. Thank God. Every room. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank God. And then online, you can type the word faith in the comments. Let us know that you're taking that step today. It's amazing. I want to invite all of us to stand at all of our locations. We're going to celebrate baptism together in just a couple of minutes. It's going to be amazing. So let me just give you some instructions, all right? So give me your attention just for a couple of minutes, and let me share with you what's going to happen. First of all, if you have already been baptized after putting your faith in Jesus, this is an opportunity for you to celebrate, okay, with others who are taking this step. You don't have to be rebaptized if you made a decisive step to be baptized. If you were baptized when you were a baby or a child, and you have this sense that perhaps you need to make the decision for yourself, I believe that is a legitimate reason to be baptized. But if you trusted Jesus and were baptized, you don't have to be rebaptized, okay? For all of you who haven't taken the step of baptism yet, some of you signed up in advance, and I know you're like, hey, stop talking. I will, so soon, so soon. In just a moment, worship team's gonna lead us again, all of our locations. You're gonna leave the auditorium, whatever room you're in. Our team's ready for you. But I have to say, if you are here today and you did not sign up in advance, but God is drawing you to him, I don't want you just to get caught up in the hype of a moment. That's not what I mean. But if you have not taken this step yet and God's drawing you to him, whether you put your faith in Jesus 3 minutes ago, 3 years ago, today's your day. Don't wait. We have everything you need. We have these t-shirts. We have shorts. They're very fashionable shorts. They're just very, very fashionable shorts, all right? And we have towels. We have everything you need. We have hair stuff. We have all the stuff. We have it all. Don't wait, all right? So journey all together, all of our locations, one more time, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. But can we put our hands together and just give Jesus all the praise? We open our hearts and prepare. Awesome. All right, Newark, it's just us in the room now, okay? So worship team's gonna come, gonna lead us in worship. We're gonna celebrate together. If you have not yet taken the step of baptism, sometime in the next couple of minutes during this song, step out from where you're standing, head out to the cafe. Our team is ready for you. We can't wait to celebrate with you. Are you ready, Journey? Come on, let's give Jesus all the praise. Let's worship him.